Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Auburn Undercover Podcast. I'm Brendan Marcello, sitting across from Michael Niziolek. As always, this Auburn Undercover Podcast is brought to you by WeHaveDonuts.com, D-O-U-G-H, nuts.com. Located in Birmingham, find them in coffee shops around there. Go to their website for delivery information and how you can subscribe to their beautiful box of donuts and get them delivered. Also, they're available for delivery at Prevail Union Coffee Shops in Montgomery and Auburn. Check them out at WeHaveDonuts.com. Mike, it was a busy Friday and Saturday for Auburn, but all away from Auburn in the state of Texas. We found out late Friday afternoon as we were traveling, or actually just finished traveling, that Jay Jacobs was going to step aside as athletics director. Finally, an announcement had come. He will step aside at the latest June 1st, 2018, but most likely much sooner. He says he will step aside whenever a new successor is hired. And so that saga and that era, 13 years for Jay Jacobs, coming to an end, and coming to an end quickly, most likely based off of what we're hearing. And then, of course, the Auburn football team went on the field Saturday and beat Texas A&M 42-27 to set up a big month of November. We'll talk more about that here in a little bit on the podcast as well. But, Mike, just what's your general thoughts on Jay Jacobs finally, I guess, stepping aside as the athletics director? Definitely not his decision, but one that had to be announced and be made, considering just how hot the water had gotten around campus, and for this fan base, it was really, really mad.
Well, I think not everybody's as plugged into this as most fans are, or diehard fans are, and so this allows him to save face. I think generally, he gets to kind of do it on his own terms, even though he was pushed before he jumped. Essentially, he gets to kind of say, "Look, I'm stepping down," and avoid kind of being, escorted off the property, essentially. But, at the timing, I guess it makes sense. It was a Friday after 5 o'clock and all the reporters are on the road. So there was some sort of, some sense in that. But, expected, really no surprise. I think everybody was just kind of waiting for when that shoe would drop, I think.
Yeah, I believe that there will be a replacement in the athletics department leading the program before the first of the year. I think they've got to get someone in place.
And it allows them to avoid an interim tag, which I think they wanted to avoid anyway.
All from the beginning, that was the word from Stephen Leith's office, not necessarily from them, but from people we've talked to, that they did not want to have an interim athletics director, and they're not going to have that now. But Jay Jacobs really trying to stay out of the spotlight. Really, he's been doing that all fall since the softball investigation was going on and the news there broke, and then even after his announcement to fans in a letter that was sent to donors and boosters, he was hard to talk to. He initially declined comment Saturday when he was spotted at the Texas A&M game, but a couple of reporters, including myself, talked to him. I know a TV station talked to him out of Birmingham for a little bit. He didn't really have much to say, didn't want to say too much. Just said that he believes President Stephen Leith is a great leader, and Auburn's athletics department will be in good hands because he believes that a good hire will be made, and he'll be willing to help. But as it stands, I think Jay Jacobs is obviously resigned to the fact that his days are numbered, they're over, and I think he just wants to go home and reevaluate some things to see what he does next with his life, because obviously things are pretty toxic. And as he said, with him, quote-unquote, resigning at this juncture like this, gives him some good graces. I know some people are reaching out to him and wishing him well, and even fans that were kind of very much against him are even being nice to him right now. So there'll be like a Jay Jacobs farewell tour here for another month or two, and then the new era will begin. Where Auburn goes from there, hiring-wise, really is anybody's guess. I'll say that right now. Stephen Leith obviously doesn't have a lot of connections to people here at Auburn. it's very, very possible he will go outside the family tree and hire someone that doesn't necessarily have deep ties to Auburn. Now, that doesn't mean he will not hire someone with ties to Auburn, like Michelle McKenna Doyle, who's a CIO for the NFL. An Auburn graduate, but definitely isn't in the quote-unquote good old boy system, as some people would like to call it. But that's something to keep an eye on. But I definitely believe that I would probably say that I would go with the field over any candidates list you're seeing right now. I believe that he'll probably go out and get someone that obviously meshes well with what he believes an athletics department should have, but also I think he wants to get a big name or at least a splashy hire, someone that he believes will provide strong leadership and kind of reinvigorate things here and, provide a different approach, which I'm sure Auburn fans will be happy to hear about. But I would be very interested to hear Stephen Leith say that himself and, come out and say, maybe do an interview and say, hey, this is what I'm looking for in an athletics director. But he hasn't done that, and I'm not sure he will. In fact, we were talking about this on Facebook Live earlier, Mike. I don't believe he'll speak to the media really in a grand scale until the athletics director is hired and he's at the press conference.
Yeah, I mean, that would make some sense. But at the same time, this athletic department administration has a way of doing things, and they like to do things away privately and not answer for anything. And I think that needs to change a little bit. And I think
needs to be some transparency.
Stephen Leith is at the top of that chain now, and I think he sets the tone. And if he's afraid to kind of answer some tough questions, and I think there's some tough questions to be asked here about this department going forward, that sets the tone for that kind of continuing a little bit. And maybe the new AD hire will reverse that, or it'll be interesting to see. But I think that given what's happened and given some of the things that they've tried to sweep under the rug here, it's time to sort of have a little more sunshine, don't you think?
Sunshine pumping. But yeah, they do need that. They need some positivity. But having said that, Stephen Leith has his own checkered past at Iowa State, dealing with airplane and personal travel with a private plane and all that. And he wasn't necessarily seemingly forthcoming with that, it seemed at first. And, it's interesting. Who has Stephen Leith's ear? That's the question.
Yeah.
Who's he listening to during this? Is he going outside of Auburn and speaking to people in his profession that he knows, athletics directors and other administrators? We don't know, but it would be nice to talk to him, and I just don't see that happening. Seems like Stephen Leith is a guy who shies away from the media spotlight because, well, he didn't have a positive experience with it at Iowa State.
Yeah. What's interesting, you talk about what happens next. Gus and Bruce Pearl will be keeping an eye on this situation. I mean, they're the high-profile names, but they're the kind of their future, I think, is wrapped up in this hire as well, especially their immediate future. What happens kind of in the next couple of months?
I think Bruce Pearl's future is more tied up in who the new AD is than Gus Malzahn. I think with Gus Malzahn, it's just going to be a simple matter of wins and losses.
But he's a relationship guy, and if he's not very comfortable with the person they bring in,
he doesn't have much of a relationship with Jay Jacobs right now.
But I'm saying if it's somebody he doesn't like, or he doesn't kind of get, he might look like you've said. You've talked about how he might push to kind of see what's out there, and that could be another sort of reason to look. But Bruce, I think specifically. Is somebody going to have an attachment to him or this school and say, well, we can give him some time, or is somebody else going to say we should start over? I think he's certainly going to have to keep an eye on what happens here.
Yeah, a lot of rumors going around about Bruce Pearl, nothing substantiated, of course. I know, heck, we're in the airport Sunday morning flying back from Houston. Someone's asking me, hey, what's going on with Bruce Pearl? I heard some rumors. I'm like, yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody, and Mike, you haven't. So, I don't know what to say there, but it's going to continue to be that way. And especially, listen, we'll speak about this briefly right now, I guess. Auburn lost it's an exhibition game. Some people say it doesn't matter, whatever. But Auburn lost to a Division II team, Barry University.
Which doesn't even sound like a real team.
It doesn't.
Every time I say it,
their mascot's a parrot with a pirate hat. And
absolutely, that is true.
I think the most damning thing for Auburn in that game is they allowed 84 points in regulation to a Division II team. It's not that Auburn lost. Of course, that's really bad. But it's the fact that what plagued them last season is plaguing them even now in an exhibition game. Defense, that's effort, that's coaching.
Well, and then you've got the problem is Mustafa Heron, who's your best offensive option by far, is also probably one of the worst defenders on the team. So how do you sort of balance that? And the problem is they
coach them.
They spent this whole month acting as if nothing was wrong. And I mean, Austin Wiley sat out because of injuries, but D'Angelo Purfoy was basically in the lineup, working as if they were going to play him. And now, you're not. And so they didn't test a lot out. They didn't try a lot of different things without him kind of around. The last couple of days they did. But now they've really kind of got to look at what they have and figure this thing out because, man, did they look bad. Even offensively, I mean, they scored a lot of points, but there was no consistency on that end of the floor. And it's going to be a long season because, the guys are out indefinitely, and indefinitely could mean a long
forever.
Time. Yeah, I mean, you don't see a real end in this scenario.
We'll see.
End in sight.
But they open the season Friday, right?
Friday against Norfolk State.
Lose that game, boy, that'd be bad.
The SEC schedule is going to be tough. They have to get there first, and they can't afford a lot of bad losses because they're going to take some lumps in the SEC schedule. And I think everybody expects that, but they got to string some things together here.
So you're saying this is an NCAA tournament team right now?
Oh no way.
Yeah,
no way.
It's an NIT team.
No.
Yeah.
Because the other downside is the SEC is stronger this year. I mean, at least that's all the coaches say. So if that's true, and Auburn lost their two of their three best players, they're at a significant disadvantage. And if there's 8 teams, there's 7 teams that are going to make the tournament, they're all better than Auburn, and then a couple kind of on the bubble. They're in a tough spot. Tough spot.
So moving forward, football. Auburn comes on that 42-27 victory against Texas A&M. We've written about it quite a bit, so we won't really rehash what happened in that game. But the big talk this week's Georgia. I mean, it's the biggest game, I believe, for Auburn since 2013, at least here at Jordan-Hare Stadium. And they are...
Your phone is apparently of his mind of his own.
My phone just brought up Siri. But I believe that this Georgia game is the biggest game since 2013, since the Kick 6 game against Alabama. Number 1, Georgia. Georgia, number 1 in the college football playoff rankings. Heading into Tuesday, the rankings will be refreshed, so to speak. We'll see if Georgia's still number 1. I bet they are. But, the question is does Auburn have a chance? Auburn can get to the SEC championship game. Heck, they can get in the playoff if they win out. But Auburn's got to play number 1 Georgia, number 2 Alabama for right now. And if they beat number 1 Georgia, Alabama will probably be number 1 when they come to town at Jordan-Hare Stadium 2 weeks later. Tough task, but I kind of have a good feeling about it for whatever reason that Auburn can pull this out. Georgia is only a 2.5-point favorite as of this hour here at Auburn. There is some thinking there that Georgia will finally fall this season after starting 8-0 for the first time in 30-plus years. What's your initial thoughts on this?
I'm on the other way. I mean, I don't have any faith that in this coaching staff, the way that these big games have gone, that things are going to go smoothly. I mean, I've seen the way that they've played Georgia the last 2 years, 2 years ago in Jordan-Hare Stadium, and
you still can't say it. You also said Malzone earlier tonight.
Malzonio, and they should have won both of those games handily, and they lost. So I don't see why top team in the country, Georgia's playing very, very, very well, firing kind of on all cylinders, coming here. I don't know. I don't. What's different? What's going to be different?
It's a great question. I mean, like you said,
Clemson, LSU.
Your number one thing. obviously is the coaching.
Yeah.
And you've got a point there. And I think that's what ultimately everything lies at the feet of. And with Gus Malzahn, he has not done well in the big game since the Ole Miss game in 2014. Because right after that, they lost to Texas A&M the next week, and everything's been downhill since. Auburn's still looking for that victory against a top 10 team.
And these losses follow just almost the exact same pattern, where in the second half the team just sort of falls apart offensively, and
it's all about adjustments.
And what is going on outside of that one Clemson game where they used 6 quarterbacks, and the whole thing was a disaster from the start.
Auburn goes into this game obviously with some confidence and with the belief that they have turned around things in the second half after putting the pedal to the metal against Arkansas and against Texas A&M in the second half of those games. Kerryon Johnson spoke pretty enthusiastically about how they do not want any more second half collapses, and the team has put that on themselves, and that's what you saw. The result of that was at Texas A&M when they came out and just was on fire and put Texas A&M away, put Arkansas away 2 weeks earlier. But can they do it against an elite team?
They could feast on the bottom. Look,
right.
None of these teams have been very good. Mississippi State and Texas A&M are their 2 best wins. And who did Mississippi State struggle with? Rutgers or UMass this weekend?
UMass, yeah.
And Texas A&M, Kellen Mond's not ready for prime time yet. Maybe he gets there, but yipes. So they're still looking for that signature win.
Yeah.
Any signature win.
Yep. It's interesting. Auburn's averaging 36.9 points per game, which is second in the SEC. Of course, that Clemson game brings that average down quite a bit. Then when you factor in, if you're just counting SEC games, Auburn's averaging 43.5 points per game in the SEC, second only to Alabama, which is averaging 43.7 points per game in the SEC. And the top 3 teams scoring-wise are Alabama, Auburn, then Georgia. Then after that, it's a steep drop-off, 9 points between Georgia and the next team, which is Ole Miss, believe it or not. The Georgia game's obviously going to come down to defense for Auburn, and whether the offense, if they do struggle, can adjust. The coaches can adjust and figure something out to attack Georgia a different way. And like you said, there's history to show that there's not a lot of belief in the coaching staff to do that. And ultimately, that is something that will lead to a coaching change if they were to lose to Georgia and Alabama. If it's something as plain as there is a pattern here, you did the same thing again, you lost in the same certain way, you're obviously not going to change. It's time for a change. And the only way to do that is to hire a new coach. So, obviously, the next 3 weeks are the biggest ever for Gus Malzahn in his entire career. And
they put themselves in a hole. This might not have been make or break if they had won that LSU game.
If they had beaten LSU, goodness, they're a one-loss team that's in near the top 5 right now.
Yeah, and they had a 20-point lead in that game. Let's not forget
20-0.
And so they would
not just a 20-point lead, but they were dominating and probably had a shot to blow the doors off them.
Probably true.
Really, seriously.
No, yeah, absolutely.
And they'd let them creep back in. Anyway, we've talked about that game a lot, but like you said, until the coaches prove that they can break out of this rut, but do it against a top 10 team, those coaches and their questions surrounding those coaches will remain. And the coaches might not remain, excuse me. But it's certainly, that's going to be the topic this week, the entire week.
I think so.
From the national media, local media as well. We'll certainly ask it Tuesday, Gus, what's going to be different? You keep saying every year is different, but what is different about this Auburn team compared to your previous ones that have lost to Georgia in each of the last 3 years?
And he won't answer.
Well, he won't answer it directly, of course. The difference, though, is not the coaching. They got a quarterback.
They do, but I mean, if you don't run the right plays, I mean, they've shown they could neutralize their quarterback, their own quarterback.
Right. Well, with play calling and
I mean,
all that. It's an interesting thing, mate. Pointed out by a fellow beat writer. Against Texas A&M, Auburn was doing well in the second half, but they went back to running the ball a lot on first down.
They did.
They went like double digits on first downs running the ball in the second half. So just because it's working doesn't mean it's the right calls. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get that.
And it's exactly what they did at LSU, and it didn't work.
And something, I think fans have pointed this out, and frustratingly so. Can Kerryon Johnson keep this pace up with the amount of work he's getting? And
great question.
That's a legitimate.
Great question.
I think it's a legitimate question. And say what you will about them using the other running backs or whatever. I mean, it's just, can he physically handle it? Because this is, like I said on Facebook Live, uncharted territory for him in terms of how much he's been used, and he's getting beat up. I mean, look, he's bounced off tackles and playing well, but I mean, I think you talked to him and he said he was feeling it. And this Georgia team's probably the best defense they've faced. Clemson's right up there too, but he's going to get hit and hit good. Can he carry it 35 times and be effective against this defense? This isn't Mississippi State or Ole Miss or Missouri. I mean, it's going to be tough. And how effective can he be if he's not just only your feature back, but you're basically your option A, B, C, and D?
Yes. But to be quite honest, I mean, listen, I don't think the coaches are voluntarily going to put Cam Martin in for an extended period of time. But if Kerryon Johnson were to get injured, they'd have no alternative.
My point is more not that, like, look,
and Cam Martin could be successful.
Cam Martin, but I think Cam Martin can be successful. But it's more just they're going to probably go to Kerryon Johnson 35 times, and how effective can he be against a defense that's going to hit him hard?
Yeah.
After having carried the most carries he's had in his entire career, he's had more carries in the last 6 weeks than he's had his entire career.
Yeah, I'll say this: I think that Auburn going into this Georgia game, if they can protect Jarrett Stidham, they're going to attack them down the field. I think they're going to throw the ball early. At least they should, if you're game planning for this Georgia team.
Yeah.
Defensively for Auburn, I think Auburn's just got to stop Nick Chubb. And if they do that, that makes freshman Jake Fromm, their quarterback, who's done very well, obviously, in a really tough road atmosphere, the toughest they've faced since being at Notre Dame. And Notre Dame's, number 3 in the nation right now, that they've faced on the road. So, and that could be a big factor going into this atmosphere, because it'll be rowdy. It'll be, I know it's 2:30 p.m. on CBS. It's not going to be a night game, but it's going to be packed and people are going to be rowdy. But it will be interesting to see how the fans react at the moment if something goes south for Auburn and fans go, "Oh no, here we go again." But I'm expecting a back and forth game.
Yeah, I think it'll be a bit of a slugfest too.
Yeah.
One interesting thing is that Auburn 2 years ago lost on a special teams play,
punt return,
essentially, not like at the buzzer, but just that was the kind of the only play that really mattered. And they're struggling a little bit. I mean, they had the blocked punt, but allowed 2 blocked field goals, allowed another big kick return, and they've been allowing big returns last 3 games, 2 for touchdowns. Is this a concern? I mean, one of the worst coverage teams right now in the country. Kickoff.
Because going into the bye week, they said this is a big concern for us, and we're going to focus on it.
Fix it.
And then they allowed a 72-yard.
They're using more veteran personnel, and it still didn't make a difference.
And then they allowed a 72-yard return late against Texas A&M, and it set up a touchdown. Yeah, that's a huge concern.
This is the worst he's ever been in his kind of coaching.
Georgia, historically, and I haven't looked at the numbers yet, historically have been good on special teams.
And again, a game like this where you know your defenses are going to give it to you.
Back and forth,
that
special teams can win the game. And special teams is what turned the corner in the Texas A&M game right before half. The block punt for Auburn.
LSU used to return too.
Right. So, yeah.
something just to watch. I mean, maybe
Definitely.
it doesn't matter, but I mean, look, it's a low scoring game, and that could be the difference because you put your defense in a bad situation like that. You can't. It's not easy to just hold right there if they put them on the 20-yard line. Texas A&M scored off that return.
All right, we'll have predictions later this week on the game. Auburn, Georgia, Deep South's oldest rivalry. Only, I believe, what is it, the fourth time these teams have met, both in the top 10. Auburn's won the previous three, 71, 83, and 2004. Auburn won all those games.
Anyway. Every week's different. Every year's different.
Every decade's
team's
different.
Every snowflake's different. Every whatever.
Who you calling a snowflake?
You.
All right, let's go to listener questions. First up is Austin Ormsby. He asked,
are we having too much fun on this podcast?
Yeah, we shouldn't laugh or smile. How important is the atmosphere in Jordan-Hare Stadium this football game? I think it's absolutely huge, as I mentioned earlier with the freshman quarterback for Georgia.
Well, look, it makes a difference when it's an 11 a.m. game and there nobody shows up to your stadium. But I don't think that'll be an issue. Or any time in Missouri. So, it's going to be packed, and it should make a difference.
Jared asks a question that does not have a finished sentence. Gus had a mini play call sheet, laminated. What do?
So if it's not laminated, does that make the key difference? Is the lamination the key here? If it's not laminated, he's not calling plays. If it's laminated, he's calling plays. What are we saying?
I don't know. Nickname asks, why did Herbie and Reese from ESPN, and it's a screenshot, laugh this hard when Galloway said a 2-loss SEC West team could make the college football playoff? I don't know. I'm not those people.
I didn't see the scene
and I
in
don't
question.
watch
and
ESPN very much.
Maybe they thought it was funny.
I did just, sure. Maybe it was some inside joke.
No.
Hayden asks, have you ever felt the Texas A&M press box shake?
Yes.
What's that like?
2 years ago. It was weird.
Yeah. I felt
and
it.
It's really high up, so it's sort of.
I felt it 4 years ago in the old press box, and that thing, you literally felt like you were you might fall off the edge of the stadium, like the press box might just crumble down.
Yeah, that's crazy. But that was not anywhere close to being a problem on Saturday.
No, you could barely feel anything at all.
I barely felt anything ever.
At all. AU43 asks, what's happening with Marquise McClain? He was in most of the spring highlights. Well, spring's different. And as we've seen in the past, if you're a spring MVP for Auburn, it probably means you're not going to do well in the fall. At least that's what history.
Paul James III is what you're saying?
Yeah, Paul James III.
What was the receiver
Justin
that didn't
Garrett.
even make it the team? That didn't cut.
He left the team before the season.
Yeah, what was that guy? Miles?
I forgot his name.
Burton?
Miles Burton?
Burton? Something?
I don't know. I can't remember. But yeah, and listen, his spring highlight was with the third-team offense.
And wasn't it with the defensive line and I think he's talking about like some of those videos they posted.
He said spring. But anyway, listen, the end of the season's here. Marquise McClain has not emerged. He will not emerge. So there you go.
He has emerged as a blocker in goal line packages.
There you go.
Myron Burton Jr.
Myron Burton Jr., that's a name to remember. Elisa Cummings asks, when does Nate Craig Myers get more involved in the offense?
A lot of Nate Craig questions.
He's certainly capable. I think that's more or less up to him than maybe the coaches.
Do you feel bad about your Nate Craig Myers for MVP push?
Yeah, listen,
season?
here's the thing. Every time I predict something before the season's going to happen, it doesn't happen.
But I'm just saying, is it right up there with one of your better predictions?
Oh, yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. I also picked this team to win 10 games this year. They have a chance still, but, you know.
It's live. Well, you picked them to beat Clemson, and you picked them to beat Georgia. So
and lose to Texas A&M.
Did you really?
Yeah. I had them beating LSU and losing to Texas A&M and losing to Alabama.
Well, not great, Bob.
Yeah, not good. So there you go.
And your second MVP for the offense was Malik Miller. So 0 for 2.
Wait, he wasn't MVP.
That was your two sleeper picks for
Sleepers.
Yeah, they're still sleeping.
Yeah, they're sleeping. Malik Miller had a touchdown Saturday. He recovered a block punt in the end zone.
Fell on a ball.
Well, you got to do what you got to do, and he did it.
He did.
So there you go. Anything you want to talk about? We spent way too much time together this weekend, and I'm starting to hate your face.
Brandon does not like me, so we don't have to talk.
Did you see Thor?
I did not.
You didn't see Thor.
I'm gonna hopefully this.
Here, I'll give you a recap real quick.
No.
Witty banter, forgettable fill-in. Oh, something happened mid-credits sequence.
You're having too much fun. This is not the time nor the place.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Other than that, we went to a video game store.
We did. Brandon bought RoboCop 2, was it? For Game Boy?
For
the original
Game Boy? Yeah.
You've got a mosquito coming at you.
Cool.
It's on your top of your head.
Oh, well, it doesn't matter. Just suck the blood out of the top of my head.
I just want to slap your head right now. It's literally on top of you. Get it.
Did you hear it? It just hit my head.
It's like really trying to go
Is there
after
really
you.
not a mosquito on my head?
No, it's like really going after you.
Really?
I wish we were on. Wish the listeners could hear this.
Hear it? They're hearing it right now.
It's on
Wait,
you.
there it is.
It's on you.
I just hit it with the microphone.
Get it.
Now it's on the microphone.
Kill that.
Got it.
All right.
You're dead,
Successful.
mosquito.
That was the most exciting moment of the podcast.
We should be more serious about things.
Yeah. You just did take a life.
But yeah, we went to the video game store.
That's
you
fun.
bought like original Xbox games, which is
Original
something
Xbox.
no one ever does.
Well, for our listeners, they are making those games, waves of them every couple of months, compatible with the new Xbox.
The Xbox
So you can
One.
just put them in and play them. So value will go up, and that's why I'm getting some of those games. That's right. It's true.
So you don't collect to collect; you collect to make money.
No. I collect because eventually, once they get to a certain, I can't spend more than $10 on a video game. So once they get out of that price range, they're gone. So buy them now, and they're in my price range.
Yeah, that's true.
I got 2 kids. I mean, they need to eat, so can't be spending money on silly stuff.
He just slammed his laptop closed. You broke the screen.
No, I didn't.
That's CBS property.
You got your new iPhone. How are
The
you
iPhone
enjoying
X.
it? Are we going to get an early review?
It's still transferring stuff. And the face recognition thing's crazy. It's very strange.
What does it do?
It's the only way to unlock the phone. See, it says unlock now because it saw my face.
That is creepy. So does the phone cry every time it has to open up?
When it looks at my face? All right, see, look. Locked, won't do anything.
Could you turn that off,
notification.
though?
No, I don't think so. I don't know.
Yes, you can.
I don't know, but then... Hey, it didn't work. Hey, beautiful.
Really fantastic.
There we go. Boom.
It didn't unlock.
It unlocked right there. It's unlocked, and it showed what's in there, and then you got to swipe up.
And then you could see our faces on the podcast.
Don't swipe right. Which one's the bad one on the dating apps?
I don't know.
See, I was trying to
Are you trying to
corner
be
you.
like
See if you're up to no good.
contemporary reference?
Yeah, that's the thing. We're getting very old, and nothing's cool anymore to me. Anyway, I hear voices. We should probably go. Seriously, that was creepy. I just heard a voice around the corner.
Yeah, so we'll talk more about Thor hopefully later this week.
Maybe it's a big week. We need more football stories, Mike.
I did more football stories today than you did, so you're behind.
How many do you do?
6 or 7.
6 or 7? Name them right now.
I wrote about every single defensive lineman there is.
You did not do that.
No, Derek Brown, Jeff Holland, T.D. Moultrie. Wrote a story about the coach's poll. Did a top 10 and maybe 5.
So 5.
And you did 3.
Yeah.
So boom. But you are going to write about Darius Slayton every day this week. So
Darius Slayton was good to talk to Sunday night. He was. Well, more on Darius Slayton this week.
Look, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Go to DariusSlayton.com/Auburn Undercover.
The honorary editor this week of Auburn.
Yeah. He's our guest editor.
All the stories will be about him.
Yeah.
So you can know what he thinks about football, what he thinks about signing with Auburn, what he thinks about sliced bread, what he thinks about...
Yeah. Well, there you go. So much for this Milquetoast podcast.
Too much fun.
Too much fun. That'll do it. This has been the Auburn Undercover Podcast presented by WeHaveDonuts.com. Check them out. And then check us out at auburnundercover.com, auburn.247sports.com, across social media platforms at Auburn247sports or Auburn at Auburn247. And I like turtles.